Hello and good afternoon. My name is Mark George, Toronto Chapter Vice President, and today I'd like to welcome you all to our virtual event. Today's presentation will be presented by Mornay, a Senior Engagement Manager from Sapling Financial Consultants, who will lead us through how CFOs can streamline their tech stack, cut costs, and boost efficiency through digital transformation. Throughout the presentation, if you do have any questions, you can pop them into the chat box, which will be monitored, as we'll have an opportunity at the end of our presentation for some Q&A. Before we begin today's presentation, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all of our members who have come out to support our events over the past year, whether dinner events or lunch events or webinars. Their continued engagement and participation are what make these sessions so valuable. And today's marks our final presentation before our break for the summer. But don't worry, we'll be back in September with a big kickoff session featuring Carl Shimada, who will be sharing key insights on the Canadian economy and the ongoing global trade dynamics, whatever they might look like at that point in time. With that, let's move into today's program. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Mornay is a results-driven senior management consultant with a strong background in business transformation and strategic solutions, built on his prior role as an assurance senior manager at PwC. He holds a BCom honors in accounting from the University of Pretoria and is a CPA in Ontario, as well as a member of the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. With expertise in financial analysis, strategic planning, and leadership, Mornay is known for his effective communication and problem-solving skills. Outside of work, he enjoys reading, cycling on his Peloton, there's a plug, and training for marathons around downtown Toronto. So welcome, Mornay, and I'll let you kick it off from there. Thanks again.
Cool. Thanks, Mark, and welcome to everyone. And there'll be some members trickling in, but as Mark mentioned, please feel free if you guys have questions at any given stage to pop it in the chat, and we'll be sure to address those. And there will be some time at the end to ask some questions as well. But feel free to pop it in between, and we can address it as the topic is being discussed. So as Mark mentioned, we'll be discussing how can CFOs optimize their IT systems and the overall tech stack of a company, as it's a very hot topic at this stage. So maybe just a bit about the agenda today. So I'll just briefly touch on just who we are at Sapling, what do we do. Then there'll be a few polls just to see who's the audience, get to gauge how big you guys are, how many IT systems you have, and then we can adjust the presentation accordingly. Then we'll go to IT optimizations, the why and the what, and how do you do it and what to expect. And then we'll have some time for Q&As. Just quickly about Sapling. So who are we? We are a boutique consultancy firm based out of Toronto, focusing on financial modeling, data analytics, and due diligence, specifically in the mid-market. So we work with a lot of private equity companies, but we also work with small to medium companies and basically do a whole range of items, from modeling to data analytics to BI to due diligence to IT optimizations as well. So these are just our two founders, Rob and Andrea. You guys would have met some of them in various different roles. So Rob grew up in financial modeling. Andrea has a PhD in physics and fell in love with data. And they basically came together to bridge the gap between IT and finance and deliver a good quality or high quality work at an affordable price point for the mid-market. As mentioned, we are based out of Toronto. All of our team members are full-time staff, so we don't contract out, and we have a wide range of experience, from CFA, CPAs to comp sci to physics, to philosophy degrees all over, and that basically makes us a whole-rounded team. We operate across Canada and the US and all of the industries, so industry agnostic. And then I'll pause here just for like 1 minute. This is just the services that we have. So I mentioned due diligence, financial analysis, data analytics, and outsourced FP&A. So how I think about it, anything in Excel and anything data related we can do, and then anything with M&A and an M&A process we can do quite easily. Okay, so getting to know you guys. So we're gonna pop a poll on the screen. I think we have 3 or 4 odd questions. And like I said, this is really just to get to know you guys. So the first question is, how big is your organization? So 1 to 25, 26 to 100, more than 100 employees. Okay, so here's the results. So we have quite a wide range. So 25 quite small, then a few mid-size, and then quite a wide range on more than 100 people. Next question. Oh, sorry. How many systems do you have in your tech stack? So you might or might not know this, but just a rough idea on how many systems you guys have in your organization and is using on a daily basis. Okay, so again, quite a wide range from very few systems to more than 15. So good size audience, and I think this will resonate with a lot of you guys because from a 1 to 5 system entity all the way to like 20 or more systems, this is quite relevant. Then the next one, have you ever done an in-depth assessment of your tech stack? And what do we mean by in-depth is like, have you ever went on a project to revisit how do you redesign or remove or add to your tech stack? Okay, so quite an even split between yes and no, and a few maybes. You don't know. So thanks for that. That gives us a good idea on our audience, and again, like I think a lot of you guys will resonate with the topic today. So IT optimization, the why and the what. So obviously, your role as a CFO at a high level is split between these 6 pillars: communication, strategic planning, financial reporting, compliance, cash flow management, and risk management. And you guys deal with all of these things on a daily basis. And your skills as a CFO finance manager is well-rounded to be able to speak to all of these things. But where do we see a CFO usually need help with? So we see skills that CFOs are very comfortable with is communication. You do that on a daily basis, communicate with the market, how you guys are performing. Regulatory compliance, comfortable with that. You have in-house legal counsel, have a counsel assisting you guys, and then that's usually quite a easy one to get help on. Risk management, in most organizations, also you have your chief risk officer there. They help you. You're comfortable with that. You can speak to the risk in your organization. Then areas where we see CFOs usually need some help with is strategic planning, cash flow management, and financial reporting, specifically to the IT planning, IT cost spending, and budgeting, because this is the type of cost that can spiral out of control quite quickly. If you don't have the right survey in place, costs go up, or it's breaking down quite a lot. You need to invest in it, or you want to add something to your stack, but you don't know how to budget for it, or what's the impact of it. So what we're seeing is that usually where the CFOs require a lot of assistance is how do you think about the IT planning? How do you think about your IT cost spending and budgeting? How do you shift your IT cost spending and budgeting? And that's where our focus will be a lot today. So what do we see CFOs are focusing on in 2025? We're seeing that with the continued AI advancements, but made daily. Like every single day, there's a new topic on AI. And I was recently at a conference, and 90% of the vendors were AI vendors or were using AI to a very large extent. So we're seeing that CFOs plan to increase spend on technology with a very big focus on adding AI to their tech stack. As part of that, they are thinking about automations, and you want to automate the finance function for the most part to attract and retain talent. But there's a lot of collaboration with a CIO or with the IT staff on allocating budget to add automations to the company's processes. And that automation could be AI or it could be other types of software. Then we see a lot of thinking around data integration, because automation only works and AI only works if data is clean and it's automated. So again, clean and reliable data feeds is required, and additional spending is required. And all of this can only happen if there's collaboration across the organization with the right tech stack. So do you have the right platform? Are you using Teams versus Google versus Slack? There's so many of those types of software out there. So are you using the right one? So as you see, it's very much tech focused, data focused, AI focused, where the CFOs and the market is looking at. All of this is adding additional systems and additional cost to your organization. And that is why IT optimization is so critical in 2025 for a lot of companies. So if we talk a bit about on what is IT optimization and why do you need that? So IT optimization is essentially the process where you go in and do a deep dive on your current state tech stack, and you want to go and identify areas for consolidations, areas for enhancements, improvements, or reductions that could lead to a slimmer, best-in-class tech stack, and to an extent result into cost savings, which we will get to. So you really want to identify the systems. You have 3 systems doing the same thing or doing similar things. Do you need all 3? Does everyone need access to all of those systems? Is there maybe a system that's out there that you're not using that can consolidate all of that in one and give you added functionality, or how can you improve on it? And here it's also very much what is best in class, what is the market doing, and we'll talk about that as well. So why do you need to go and consider going through an IT optimization, and what what will you get out of it? So ultimately, as a company grow, or as technology come out, like AI that we've touched on, companies continue to add software to their tech stack to stay competitive. However, what usually happens in organizations, and you guys will obviously see this, is you add technology, but you never go and remove the technology. So you've implemented a new system, you're using Adobe Pro for signing documents, and you have DocuSign. You have 2 licenses. You've added one because you needed it at some stage, and that cost is just growing. So you basically want to revisit that. So you basically want to make sure that you revisit your tech stack to remove these redundant software and review on, does everyone need access to it? You want to go out and look at, are you still paying market price? So the longer you stay with a software, the more expensive some of the software become, because there's just these yearly increases. And I think we've all seen it with Wi-Fi or internet services. Every single year, they just put on an increase. But once you move from Rogers to Bell, or from Bell to Virgin or Fido or whatever, you can get a more competitive price. So you basically want to make sure that you are paying the most efficient price. And the big reason for that is you are paying for the software if you're using it or not. It will help streamline workflows, so you will identify bottlenecks, inefficiencies, and identify where you can and need to automate repetitive tasks. it will inform you more strategic. So the more data you have, the better data you have, the more insights you can get out of it, and the more informed business decisions you can make about your business. And ultimately, it enhances the communication challenge between different departments, because if your data is clean, if it's integrated, if it's automated, everyone is using the same source of truth. So you have one golden source, and that's basically what people are using. So now that we know the why and the what, how do you go about it and what to expect? Because if you don't plan for it properly, it could be very painful. One of my previous audit clients always said, when audit season comes around, like going to the dentist for a root canal, and you don't want this to be a root canal exercise for your staff and for yourself. You want to have a smooth, seamless process that actually adds value to your company. So your first step is you want to map business processes to specific IT systems. So what do we see a business process is, and why is this important? And a lot of you who's going through audits will immediately know what we're talking about. Is a business process is a functional area in the company that is either driving the revenue or supporting the business. So some examples: invoicing process, or the month-end finance process, your sales process. So it's a bit wider than just looking at a normal control from an audit perspective. This is understanding literally the full cradle to grave, that full process, how information flow. But as part of that, you need to identify and align on the objectives. So what is your objective for the company, and the vision and the strategy for the company? You want to grow your business by 40% year over year, but identify how every single business process will help getting to that. So this will be, for example, reducing time spent on the month-end process. So you want to automate month-end processes because you're going to free up your staff to do something else. And then you also want to go and grow your sales in a new geography that you're not in yet. Why is this important? This is important to make sure that your staff is equipped with the right tech stack, and that as someone goes through this exercise, they can say, do you know what? Salesforce might not be the one for you. You might want to go with another CRM. It might be that QuickBooks is not equipped for your business anymore. You need to move to NetSuite or to Sage or to SAP. So it's really to help with what is your objective? Where do you want to go with the business? How does that business process fit into that objective so that the right tech stack can be looked at? So as part of this business process understanding that needs to take place is we kind of need to, someone needs to perform a full walkthrough of the business process to identify the user's specific requirements. What systems do they use it? What functionality do they use it? How do they use it? And why do they need those systems? Like, is it just a nice-to-have system? Is it a must-to-have system? How does that contribute to your controls? How does it contribute to your financial statements? And the key thing here is really to talk to the right people on the ground, and get a sense of what's their pain points. What functionality is lacking in the current tech stack, in the current systems? What do they need from the systems? What does the system do well? And the biggest reason for this is we need to know, or someone needs to know really, if they are going to suggest another system for you, is this going to take away the pain point? Is it going to make that function and that business process more efficient? And that's really why this business process is so important, is getting that understanding cradle to grave. So as part of this, you want to build out flowcharts to map systems to business processes and identify redundant and underutilized licenses. So as part of this is, as part of the interviews and surveys, which we'll go into a bit later, is want to obtain the what, the why, and how of each system. So What is the functionality required? Why is the function required? Why is it important? Why does that specific user need access? How is the system being used? The what, why, and how is very important. And what we see a lot is I needed to request a DocuSign license to quickly do something, but I've used it once, I don't need it again. So revoke those licenses is we ask those difficult questions on the what, the why, and the how. And this is really to identify which systems are redundant and not being used, which systems can be consolidated into one that serves the same purpose, which licenses can be revoked because they're not actually using the system, and can you downgrade your licenses because not all of the functionality is being paid, or not all of the functionality is being used that you pay for. So sometimes when you get a system, you pay for the Cadillac, but you actually just use the functionality of a VW Beetle. And you really want to make sure that what you're paying is what you're using for. So we are going through an ERP implementation at the moment, and the entity wanted to go with a very expensive Microsoft Dynamics package. It's like, you don't need that full package because you're only going to use 3 or 4 of the modules. So go with a slimmer package. And sometimes is when you actually implement it, you go for the best one because you think you're going to use it. But down the line, you figure things out, you get other software, you become more efficient and not use all of that anymore. And this is specifically relevant in CRMs that we are seeing. So which of those licenses can you actually downgrade? You don't need the Cadillac version anymore. So how do you then do this? Because this can really be a painful exercise, and you might not get the outcome that you want. The effectiveness of this process is really dependent on participation from the right people. We don't want to go and chat to the CIO. We don't want to go and chat to the CRO. We want to talk to the system admin. We want to talk to the end user, the people who's actually using the software, the people who's actually performing the business process, because those are the people who will actually give me the pain points. They'll give me the dirty details of this is what they don't like about the system. So we need to talk to the right people. So as part of the process, at the start of the process, you need to identify and classify each system as primary or secondary. And we are using primary or secondary. It can be important, not important. It can be primary, tertiary, whichever terminology you want to use. But how we see it is which systems is a key system for your entity. You can't do business without it. So this is your ERP, your general ledger. Maybe if you have a billing system, those are the ones that's driving the business. If that system fails, you will not be able to generate revenue. Then you have secondary resources or supporting resources. These are the things that just support the business. So think about an internet service. Yes, in this day and age, you need internet to be able to do business, but you can easily switch. Think about Microsoft versus Google. Think about your Adobe. So those are the type of supporting systems in your business. Then you want to collate information from your system admins and your finance staff on how many users, how do I pay for it, what's the cost? So what do I mean by that? Do you pay per license? Do you pay per license per user, or do you pay 50,000 and you can have up to 10 users? So regardless if you have 1 or 10 users, you pay that 50K. So how do you incur that cost, and how many users are on there? And then there will be some technical specifications as well. Then every single business process, you will then also go and rank in the order of importance. So which one will have the greatest to the least impact on your objective? So your sales function will be able to grow your business by 40%, but maybe your IT function is not as important because they just support. Or your finance function you outsource. But your AP and AR function is important because that's how you collect cash. So basically go and classify the business process from the greatest to the least impact on your objective. Then for the most important business processes, perform detailed walkthroughs. So very similar to audit walkthroughs. Take me from cradle to grave. Tell me everything. How are you using it? Give me all of the details. So we'll say usually there's a pre-questionnaire that will help prep the meeting, then have the meeting, and then a lot of detailed follow-ups afterwards. For all of the supporting processes and systems, you can get results over surveys. So you don't want to go and have 100 meetings because then you're going to be busy with this exercise for the whole year. Some of this can really be done with specific detailed questionnaires to people and to a targeted audience so that you actually get feedback. And there might be some follow-up questions, depends on the actual results that's getting back from the surveys. And here's really how to effectively do that so that you can understand what systems are used, how they're using it, which processes use the same system, what's the functionality required, and all of those things that we've already discussed. So what's the outcome of a business process? So you want this diagram. So I've just one year, for example, Salesforce with an ERP, and I've used Salesforce just because most companies use that CRM. So this is essentially a flow diagram. If you are audited, you most likely, or PCOB, you might actually already have this type of diagram already set up with specific controls. But this is literally every single step on how do they perform the actions, what systems are involved. This, together with this diagram, is the outcome. So you basically want that full diagram of how your process flows, together with a full landscape of your IT systems. So how does the interfaces talk to each other? What is used where? What we've done on this one is everything that's marked with a star is a primary system, so a core system. Everything else is just a supporting system. So how does it flow? And by doing this type of landscape, you'll easily go and identify, oh, do you know what? My finance team is using 10 systems where my sales team is using one. Does my finance team need to use 10? Can we consolidate? So by understanding that and having this process flow and tech stack is ultimately the outcome of those first few interviews and surveys. And this will then form the base for when you start to think about transitioning on identifying where you want to transition first. And this will obviously vary, depends on your business. And we've simplified this one. So the company that we've done it for had, I think this one was almost like double the size. And then we just simplified it for these purposes. So this is a really simplified version, but this one can expand quite easily. Would suggest, even if you don't want to go through the full IT optimization process, to have someone actually draw something up like this is usually quite good and important, especially as a company grows and just maintain it. So now that you know which systems you have, which is important, how the business processes work and data flow, you want to make sure you understand all of your IT costs and how do they scale with your organization. So you can get your finance managers and controllers to help here and also your system admin. So you want to make sure in your TB and GLs, you identify all of your software invoices. You want to identify who's the system administrator or owner of that expense, so that you can determine how are the costs being incurred, being pay per user, or is it fixed per month, or is it a combination? Do you pay only for a software license or do you have hardware? Why is this important? You kind of want to know what your CapEx is going to look like. If you go and look at alternatives, you want to know your all-inclusive IT cost for that system. You then also want to understand, do you have a fixed contract in place for a period of time? So you might have renewed a contract a year ago and you're locked in for 2 years. If if there is a fixed contract, how many months are still left? And if so, is there any cancellation cost? And again, you want to know that if you are going to move your systems or migrate or change, what the impact is going to be. And then all of this will again be classified as part of your primary and secondary resources. Um, and what we always say, like from your IT costs, always make sure you also include your managed service providers or other service providers so that you have a full inclusive view of your IT cost and your IT support function. So now that we know business processes, we know our IT landscape, we know how much it costs, what do you want to do? You want to then evaluate alternative software and providers that will meet your business's needs. So what's the factors that you want to look at? First one is obviously pricing, because cash is king and you want to save as much as possible. So you might not be paying competitive service or prices anymore. You might not be using all of the functionality. So to go and get quotes from alternative providers or alternative systems, but also go back to your current provider as well or system to see if they can offer you better pricing. But note, your quotes and the pricing that you want to get needs to be for the functionality that you're using, not what you currently have. So if you're not using all of the functionality, don't get quotes for everything. Only get quotes for what is required. You can always upgrade at the later stage. You want to assess and make sure you're doing what your industry is doing with competitors and the industry standard. So is the industry using AI, RPA, or they're using cloud or still physical servers? This is important because you don't want to lack, you don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive, and just migrate with the times. Your business might not be on a place to migrate to the cloud yet, but then you can actually draw out a roadmap for you to get there. You want to see how easy is it to integrate with your current systems. How does it stack up with alternatives? So how easy does Salesforce integrate with Power BI or Tableau? Important if you are doing some business intelligence stuff. Okay, easy to integrate with Tableau. Do you currently have Tableau? If not, and you have Power BI, what's the cost difference? How easy then to integrate your other systems in the other visualization tool? How easy is it to use it? So if you migrate, you obviously have some change in your company, and people do not like change. So you want to make sure that change is as seamless and smooth as possible. So assessing the new software for the ease of use is important. Demoing this to some users is also important. Then how easy to get reporting out of the system and analyze the data? Some of the systems is horrible, but you want to know, like, do they have visualizations? Do they have standard reports? How easy is it to customize that? Is it additional cost? Can you do it in-house? So basically for your type of reporting. You want to also look at cyber concerns. So how reputable are these alternatives? Because you can get a very cheap alternative, but there's cyber concerns or it's not as secure. And then lastly is, what support do you need afterwards? And what level of support do they provide? Is it someone when you put in a ticket, they're going to take a week to get back to you, or do they actually get back to you within a day? Is this something that your MSP or your internal IT staff can deal with if there's a question? So what is that type of support that's needed afterwards? And then obviously also just making sure that it fits your business and the needs. So after you have that, is the question, the so what? I've done all of this. How do I know what to choose? So this is where you then want to go and build out a very high level. It doesn't need to be detailed or as in detailed as normal model. you want to go and build out a financial model for you. So stacking up your current cost, layering on alternatives. So what we usually suggest is you can go and look at a million different alternatives. We usually try and limit it to say, let's go and look at 2 or 3 different alternatives so that you have a selection to choose from. But then important for you to go and look at what is your current software cost and how does all of these different configurations or different alternatives stack up against each other, and play around with scenarios. So what if I stay with my current ERP, but I change my CRM? What's my once implementation cost? What's my cancellation costs? What happens if I don't do it now, but if I do the migration 2 years from now or 5 months from now? So building out that high-level financial model from a cost perspective is important. And then this will also help you identify certain EBITDA add backs potentially, if you think about from an M&A perspective or investor perspective for one-time costs. And you'll see here, this is actually one that we've scrubbed. You can achieve up to almost like 35% savings sometimes. So usually what we see, 25 to 35 is savings that you can achieve. But one thing to consider, don't just obviously look at the P&L impact or the cash flow impact. You want to make sure that you analyze this in more detail. And I know you guys, this goes without saying, you guys do this on a daily basis, but analyze each configuration in more detail. Don't just look at the quantitative, look at the qualitative. A cloud migration might have a one-time cost implication. It might be more costly monthly because now you're paying, it's something goes through operating expenses instead of sitting as CapEx on your balance sheet. But this is moving your business forward. So cloud might be more expensive over the long run, but it's actually getting you up to standard and could save you some pains in the future. You don't need to budget for CapEx anymore. Every 5 years, there's a $2 million for a new server, or something breaks down. Only 1 or 2 people know how to use the software. We have a company who's actually still using software on MS-DOS, and only 2 people in the organization actually know how to use it. And it's like, well, what if they leave, you know? So always making sure you weigh up the quantitative and qualitative is quite important. Just so that you know, you know what, my alternative might actually cost me more in certain months or for a certain software, but that is actually the one that you need to take, just to stack up against the industry and stay relevant, and not needing to have a big implementation or a big revamp in 2 or 3 years from now. And now that you have your business process, your tech stack, alternatives with quotes, and you have a model with scenarios, you want to go and plan out a roadmap for you. So again, this is an example of one that we created earlier the year. Is you start, you analyze, you assess, then you pivot. Sometimes what happens is on your MSP or someone that you engage can actually help negotiate some other services for you. So what we've seen is your managed service provider can help negotiate and reduce prices. So do this exercise in tandem with them, but then also if you maybe move MSPs, they can help actually with reducing some of the other costs or changing as well. And then ultimately you want to, after all of this, you want to have a post-mortem, debrief and assess, and pivot again if needed. Sometimes what we are seeing is people want to run 2 systems in parallel. So our one entity wanted to run 2 CRMs in parallel, and after a year assess which one they want to take. And the reason why you maybe sometimes want to do that is it might not be as popular system yet, but it might actually serve your purposes. That's the decision that you ultimately are going to need to make. And this helps you spreading out your staff, spreading out your budget, spreading out your resources. And then once you've landed on this, you can again go back to your model and see over time, how does it look? Because you don't want to do everything at once. Change it is hard already. So it's doing the model and the roadmap in tandem with each other is so important. And after you've done the roadmap, revisit your model. Now that you have your results, okay, maybe I need to go and edit my roadmap again. Okay, well, now that I've done this, I maybe have a bit of a better understanding of a business process. So let me go and add or ask an additional question, which might result into a different quote. So as you do these in steps, when you get to the next step, you're most likely going to want to revisit some of the items in the previous step and ultimately just make sure that you have this full view from cradle to grave on all of your systems, on all of your business processes, and you make that informed decision. And then once you have this, you can obviously go and allocate resources, you can allocate budget, and then you get into the project on managing those transitions, managing questions, and overall just making sure everyone have a smooth process. And then at the end of the day, just assess if you've actually achieved what you wanted to achieve. And this is also a good tool to hold people accountable. So that takes me to the end of my presentation. So I want to see if there's any questions. So I know I spoke a lot. So any questions, insights that you guys have, maybe some stuff that you guys have seen working in your company, stuff that might not have worked in your company, your experience on this, or just any other question. And you guys can just feel free to post in the chat. One question that usually comes up is how long should this assessment take? Very dependent on the priority within the company. You can get this done in a month. You can get this done over 3 months. It really depends where in your financial year you are and how important is this for the company. So we usually do it over a 2-month period, but very much dependent on how available the staff is to answer questions, and obviously how long it takes to get some feedback from quotes and everything. Then maybe a question that came up on this tech stack is how in detail do you want this to be? So it very much depends on what you already have. This can be like we always suggest to have this quite in detail with all of your systems laid out. You might not have people allocated to everything, but for your business process, all of the systems that you've identified you'll want to put in here. It doesn't mean that you need to go and assess everything. So you might not want to move. So on this one, we had Office 365. You might not have any intention to actually move from Microsoft. You know you're on the right license. You don't want to move to Google or Mac. So you basically list it there. That's something that people use. You know it is there. You know that you're paying for it, but you don't need to go and assess it. So to have a fulsome picture is worth it. It doesn't mean you need to go and assess it. The same for your business processes. You might have 50 business processes, but you don't need to go and interview all of them. You don't need to send surveys to all of them. You focus on the ones that is the most important for your business and where the lowest hanging fruits are in the short term. And then you can always have, listen, let me focus on these 5 systems with these 2 or 3 business processes. You just send out a survey to make sure none of the other business processes maybe use the system. And then after you're done with the first stint, you go to the next and then the next. The only drawback of that is really just your model is then going to be just for like going to be very limited. And just ultimately for that business process or system. Then how often do you need to to do this. Um, Really dependent on your business. So there's certain things that you want to do quarterly or yearly, like a system access review. And most of you most likely already do that. So does everyone really need access? If not, revoke their licenses. Um, some of this you want to do once a year. Again, really looking at the licenses. But then you can plan this out every 2 to 5 years. It really depends on how quickly things advance. But we do see a lot of companies still on premises, not in the cloud yet. So do it, and then afterwards, you just come and reassess. Um, so, and it really depends on what you include in your first assessment. If you only include a few systems, then this could be something that you do yearly on some of your secondary resources. But then your primary ones, you'll most likely come and reassess like every 3 years. Should be appropriate to do that. Um, and it's question is it easy to keep it up to date once it's developed? To an extent, yes, because you will, once you change systems, you will come and update your tech stack. So you will know actually what is the new systems that you're using. So this piece you would not need to do again. And once you actually update this, you can go and update your business process. Then ask your auditors once a year when they actually go through the control walkthroughs to, is this still relevant? You can give this to them and they'll actually go and make some comments on it. So quite easy to keep up, because once you actually have these roadmaps and the flow charts are mapped out, you can come and review this a lot easier and quicker. You might just need to redo some surveys. You might not need to go and do all of the meetings again. And then your time and effort is going to be spent on getting alternatives and just looking what else the market is doing. Um, cool. Um, if there's no other questions, I just want to say like thanks for everyone who attended. My email is up on the screen. If you guys are interested in the deck, please feel free to email us, and we can share with you guys the deck. Um, and then I want to thank just Mark and everyone at FEI as well that we could host this. And FEI will share a link for a survey.
Great.
So please, if you guys can complete that, it would be great. It's always great to get from an FEI perspective feedback, and also from our perspective on some topics that you guys would like to hear from, or just overall feedback on the webinar. So that should come out in the next day or so. So if you guys can please complete that before the long weekend, it would be great.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in to wrap it up, and I just want to thank you again, Mornay, for your time and for a very extensive presentation on a highly technical topic. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the kind of the wrap up of our summer session for events, whether dinner, lunch, or webinars, and we'll be back in September and for a dinner event. So watch your emails for that announcement over the next month or so. And as Mornay mentioned, uh, please complete the survey when you receive it, and because we look forward to your feedback and thoughts and ideas, and we certainly welcome those. So. Again, thanks again, Mornay, and to the team at Sapling, and to everyone that's attended the webinar. And have a great summer. Enjoy the hot weather. Certainly have it now, and we'll look forward to seeing you again back in September. Thanks again.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.